Welcome to the Chase Merrell podcast. I am your host, Chase Merrell, and we are all about helping people get freed up from what's holding them back so they can build up who they were made to be. In today's conversation, I have my friend Jeremy Buendia with me. Jeremy is a four-time Mr. Olympia champion and is currently in prep 5 weeks out from going after his fifth title of men's physique in the Mr. Olympia competition. And I'll tell you what, this dude is dialed in as he's getting ready for that attempt. And he's a friend from high school, but beyond that, he's somebody that I've watched over the years embrace whatever life has brought, whatever he's walked into, and processed how to continue to step into being the man that he was made to be, overcoming so many different things. And I'm so thankful for this conversation, his authenticity, his vulnerability, his humility, and just the way that the Lord has moved in his life and transformed who he is into who he is today, the husband, the father, the friend, and one of the best physiques in the world. This is an amazing conversation that I know you are going to be so encouraged, inspired, and challenged by. Can't wait for you to take a listen. If you want to help us continue to make an impact with this podcast week in and week out, consider joining our new Patreon community. For as little as a cup of coffee a month, you can be a part of helping us get the message and mission of the podcast out to more people more effectively. This is a way that we can come together as a community, and you'll get access to behind the scenes stuff, additional resources and content, and so much more for just as little as $5 a month. You can head over to chasemerrell.com and click Patreon to jump in and get started. Now let's jump into today's conversation. Well, welcome to the Chase Merrell podcast. I'm here today with my friend, Jeremy Buendia. Jeremy, what up, man?
What's going on, bro? It's been a while since we've spoken, and I don't know how long it's been since I've seen you, but glad to do this.
Yeah, man, it's been a minute. I'm so thankful for your willingness to jump on and be a part of this 52 project with me, this podcast. I've been journeying. You're going to be episode 40 of 52 when it comes to the 52 people that I have had on my list that have made an impact on my life to be able to be a part of this project, and you're one of them, bro. And so for the people that have been a part of this and listening, that some will have an idea of who you are, some will have no idea based on some of the audience that I know is a part of this, but will you just take a second and introduce yourself, just context for who is Jeremy Buendia, maybe in a nutshell? I know that's probably a pretty broad question to be able to identify in a nutshell, but where are you at? What are you doing in life? Who you're connected to when it comes to, family, if you're married, etc. For people that don't know you.
Well, I went to high school with Chase. I'm 33. I'll be 33 years old next month.
Dude,
we're getting old, man. 15 years out of high school already. It's gone by quick, man.
Oh my gosh.
I still I moved back to Rockland. I live right down the street from Whitney High School.
Let's go.
So we moved back. I was in Southern California for like 6 or 7 years with my wife and I, who actually went to high school with us. Stacy and I got married, and we have a little girl. She's 2.5. And we moved back up here to Rockland, and we got all our family up here. So that was a big reason why we're here. We wanted our daughter to have family around her. It's one of the most important things.
Yeah.
So most people know me for bodybuilding. I was a 4-time Mr. Olympia in men's physique division. I have been retired for 5 years actually, and I'm making my comeback this year. So it's been quite a journey. I've had a lot of ups and downs the past 4 years, and to be back in the position I'm in right now, the man you have sitting before you, and it's just a big transformation that God's done in my life over the past 2 years, and all the tough times I've gone through, and how now looking back on and really understanding what he was doing in my life at the time. And it's just been amazing to see even the transformation I'm making through this prep. God's been by my side this whole time, and that's what's gotten me through, and it's what made it one of my smoothest preps, and what's leading me to what ultimately be my best physique. And it's exciting. We got a lot of amazing things I'm looking forward to, and he's just blessed me in a lot of ways, and brought me back from a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the journey that I've watched from afar since high school. You graduated a year before me. You were technically the first graduating class from Whitney High School, if I remember right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just insane to see the journey that you've walked out, like you alluded to over the last, is it, 2008, so 15, is it really 15 years? Oh
Yeah,
my.
I graduated 2008, man.
I feel,
Whew,
I mean,
20 years coming up, bro.
that feels gross old. Like, I don't know why, but listen, so part of that first year I came into Whitney High School freshman football. I'd played football for a few years before moving into the Rockland area, but there was a murmuring around this dude named Jeremy Buendia, and I had played RJT football a little bit. Some of those guys out there that are part of that year, you're younger than you, but it wasn't until getting into the Whitney Wildcat program my freshman year, as you were a sophomore, first football of the history of Whitney Wildcats, where that's where I got to know you, and that world of starting it. And you just had this like dominating, intimidating presence about you as a football player. I'll never forget it. I feel like you had some form of pad. Like it was like the
neck roll.
Yeah. So on top of your already physique, which definitely transformed from football to where it is now, but even still, as a sophomore in high school, you were a freaking tank. And I'll never forget, dude. There was a moment where we combined practices. You'll never probably remember this because you were the one delivering the hit, but we did some combined freshman and JV, practice with Coach Hunter and Jimenez and all that. And we got lined up on a drill, and I did not want to do it, but I knew I had to. all my pride was like, you have to. You don't get to walk away from this. But I remember greatly regretting the fact that I had got paired up with Jeremy Buendia in that collision, bro. But so that's where it started. But man, part of high school was you had so much passion for life. Like you didn't do a lot of things like half-ass. You didn't do a lot of things halfway. It was like you believed in something. You had a lot of conviction. You had a little bit of that, like, I don't know if you could call it like justified confidence / swag. Like you were like, you brought that to the table.
Some people call it cocky.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, depending, right. But it was there, and it was a presence, and man, I there was even a moment where, I remember just how you cared for the people that you cared for in a way that was like, I got you, I got your back. And there was just some times with Riley Silva and some of these guys I'm remembering.
Were you there?
I was there, bro.
Oh man.
all that. Here's what my takeaway was. This guy's willing to be there for the people he cares about. And so that was part of what said it. And then, kind of throughout some of my years of just trying to figure out who I was, there was this piece about Jesus that came in and kind of threw up and down throughout that high school, a little bit out where I don't know what your history with that world was, but you were one of the guys that when I would talk about that world for me, you had a clue what I was talking about. Like some of them were like, no idea. And you were able to have those conversations with me that were pretty meaningful. And like, I recognize, oh, this dude's got something in him that's more than just football. It's more than just ladies. Like you were an attractive, strong dude, still are obviously, but that there was more in you that you even recognized from an earlier age. And that was even really before the bodybuilding world began happening. But that was something that began to connect, you and I. And the one last piece before we just kind of went different ways locationally was I was engaged to be married, and I wasn't in my honeymoon, they call it LGN, look good naked diet. I wasn't in my honeymoon shape. I had just seen you start to do some kind of personal training.
That's right.
And it was like a 4-week package or like a 6-week package. And I was like, this dude's going to help me be ready for my honeymoon. So I remember for my physical fitness journey, being one of your, I don't know how much you had started at that point, but drove down to like Citrus Heights or somewhere Orange.
Yeah.
And worked out with you and threw up my guts out like the first or second session because
You did good though. You made a good transformation.
I did, bro. And so that even just, man, this is, if I want to take my physical fitness seriously, that was the first time I ever even entertained the thought of like, I need somebody in my corner that's able to help me get to
How
the
old
next.
were you? How old were you? You had to have been like
I
19 or 19?
Yeah, 19,
Yeah.
almost 20, I
Okay.
think, cause you were just, yeah, you're a year ahead of me. So you were just,
Yeah.
I don't think you had the bodybuilding world hadn't really happened yet. I mean, I think you had
I had
competed a
done
little
some
bit.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't turn pro yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But part of what that world was like, oh, this needs to become a part of my life. Having somebody that's able to push me in a way that is actually going to help me get results. That's where that started in my world. So will you take me, and for those listening, um, you your career exploded pretty quickly as you
Yeah.
stepped into that professional bodybuilding world.
Yeah.
What was that jump like when you stepped in and you went from the amateur level to the pro level and you really began to see that stuff take off?
Well, yeah. I mean, men's physique was a new division in the IFBB, which is the organization I compete in. And it's the same organization that Arnold competed in. So it's a new division. It's not necessarily bodybuilding. It's a little bit, we're smaller, slender, smaller guys. And we're wearing board shorts on stage. We're not really showing off our legs too much. I got legs. But anyways,
Yeah, you do.
um, but yeah, so I mean that's the basis of what I do. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, just the explosion into like,
Oh,
I mean,
how to grow so quickly.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
So yeah, I was the first. Basically, I did the first men's physique Olympia, and I won the second one. So the sport was really new, and it had a lot of international attraction. Everybody was just starting to get familiar with it, and I was on top of the sport. I won 4 years in a row. So I built a huge following on social media. Fitness was just getting big on Instagram around that time,
yeah.
and I got in early on Instagram, and I had blown up my social media following. And ultimately, that's what's helped a lot in regards to like my international exposure, my reach is the social media following. Winning the Olympia titles was a huge accomplishment, and that's what got me the exposure. But it's just the reach and what I'm able to do, um, and who I'm able to get, reach and help, inspire, whatever it is that I do. For anyone around the world. I have friends all over the world. I've traveled all over the world. It's been incredible, to be honest. I did a lot in my 20s, and life's changed for a lot in my 30s now. And now that I'm getting back into the sport again, it's like it's going to be a lot different this time around.
Yeah, yeah. You you experienced that success when that first title came, and then it just snowballed, right? Like you mentioned, three more after that, so four in a row, and probably would have been five had it not been for a significant injury that you had to kind of overcome. But what I think about is the way that you had to begin to navigate the scale. I think about not only from the social media presence and the success and the pressure and the how to take that success and not only monetize it but turn it into something that could begin to provide for you and your family far beyond what just the immediate. Like what was that thing for you when you thought about the business and the like, oh shoot, this is bigger than just a hot flash in the pan. This could be about my future life here. How did you go from just I'm killing it in the gym and putting the package together for this to gear shifting into like the thinking about the business side of it and how to make the most of that while you were in the middle of it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's the money's not going to last forever doing what I do.
Sure.
So that I have a bunch of sponsorships and endorsement deals. Yeah, I have my other businesses like online coaching, and I had ebooks and stuff like that. I had a clothing company. I had a lot of things before and had bad business relationships and partners. Certain businesses and things went under, and you know, I went through a time when I lost all my sponsorships, and I didn't have anything. I had everything to fall back on. My physique is what I had to fall back on, and that's something I've been wrestling with for a long time. Is you know what I'm doing isn't sustainable. It's not going to last forever. So trying to figure out what's next or how I'm going to be able to still have a business without having to have one of the best physiques in the world. Because what I do right now is hard. It's hard on the body and it's stressful and it takes away from a lot.
Yeah.
I can't live a normal life because I got to make sure I'm eating food every 2 hours. So I don't do normal things. I hang out around the house so I can eat.
Right.
So, a lot of thoughts been going into that. And, you know, during those 4 years that I went through, I had I've left the bodybuilding industry and like kind of just like trashed everything that I built. And it was really hard. I went through a lot of different things, and basically I became almost hated in our sport and on social media, and that lasted for years. And it wasn't until recently, you know, where I started to do my YouTube again and trying to show people, not show people, but it's been posting, and people have been seeing
Yeah.
how I've grown and changed and matured, and you know, that's what's I've been focusing on is what's next after this, and I have a lot of plans. My whole point of doing Olympia again was to rebuild everything that I needed to rebuild, get the relationships back, let people see for me for who I am now. And it's going to be able to set me up for the things that I want to do. Some things are still in fitness, some things are outside of fitness. I just want to kind of have my hands in a few different things, but not be, confined to what I'm doing right now, which won't last very much longer. And like I said, it's kind of like you're a slave to the sport. This is all I do.
Yeah. The thing that people that know you, whether it's from high school or like where you are to this day in the world, that just getting to know you, most people that have any chance of getting to know you, or they have an opinion about you. There's not a lot of neutral, like they don't, and so you have gone through a lot of that, like, the perceived negative or positive of who you are as a man, who you are in the sport, etc. When I think about that, I think about even in the 15 years, 16, 17 that I've known you, and there's two things that stand out, and I'd love to see like even what your thoughts are and how this has changed over the years. You've been one of the things that stood out about you is your authenticity. Like you've always been a man that, like, regardless of how whatever's received or not, like you're going to communicate really what you feel, what you think. You're not going to try to be somebody you're not for anybody. Right. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
but
so, yeah. And, it's just, yeah, in other words, I didn't have much to filter. I just said how I felt. And it hurt a
sure.
lot of feelings. So
Yeah,
nowadays that I'm older, I'm more conscious of and more of
sure.
other people's feelings and how they're I watch what I say, and I gave people a reason not to like me. I'm not going to sit here and act like I didn't. Looking back and watching my old videos from when I was in my early mid 20s, and
Yeah,
just even looking back and on the memories that I have and the way my thought processes were, my priorities were at, it's just different now. There comes a point where you just got to grow up. I
yeah,
was talking to my wife earlier about this. We have friends that are still doing things. They're married, they have kids, and they're still doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. And I was like, how old do you gotta be until you realize, you don't do bad stuff? Why? Because you just don't.
yeah,
The bad stuff has consequences. You once you become an adult, you recognize those things, and there's you weigh out your risk versus reward.
totally.
It's things just change as you mature. And I was just young, and I was living in the moment during that time, and I didn't care about really anybody but myself. I kind of felt like I was the main character of this world, just
Sure.
walking around thinking, not thinking about anything else. It was just a game to me.
Yeah. So that piece, which by the way, thanks for just your transparency and your vulnerability there. That piece that you just acknowledged of that maturity process that you've watched take place. I think part of what I've seen is like your ability to have those moments where you've seen and recognized those things, and then rather than completely deny or just like try to like pretend whatever, nothing was said or has happened. One of the things I think I have come to respect a lot about you, Jeremy, is your ability to do what you just communicate, what you just did, which was, hey, I've recognized this now since then, and I want to acknowledge that and communicate rather than try to pretend whatever. Like it takes a bigger man, it takes a bigger woman when it comes to people that are willing to go, hey, that wasn't whatever, it wasn't healthy, or wasn't what it could or should have been, to be able to acknowledge and then move forward without just disappearing completely and saying I'm too embarrassed, I'm too prideful, whatever. That's something that I've watched, to your point, over the last couple of years, this maturing process that's come out of how even you've communicated through social media, which I know is not always, everything,
Yeah.
but you can tell, bro, there's something that really has shifted in the way you even carry yourself in your communication, in your body language as you're talking to the camera, as things are happening on Instagram and your YouTube, etc., where it's like, no, this is real. Like, this isn't manufactured. This isn't just Jeremy trying to repair something of an image. Like, you could tell, like, this is for
Yeah.
real. And I want to acknowledge that, because I just don't think that there's enough people in life that do that, and they're missing an opportunity to really help other people see, like, that's actually the route we should go.
Well, I mean, dude, it took a lot for me to come into the realization of things that you know, of where I'm at right now. I went through years of not feeling good enough, of living in, in guilt and living in anger, um, living with grudges.
Yeah.
And, it just, it, it just led me to nothing, dude. It really did. I became powerless, like, of myself. And that's kind of why I chose to be a little more open with people during this process, because it's not just about bodybuilding for me. Like, I know there's a bigger plan, a bigger purpose for what I'm doing. Having as many followers as I have, like, I've had them for a long time now, so it's like it's just a number to me. I'm
Yeah.
still, if you were to hang out with me in a room, you wouldn't be able to go, that guy's famous on Instagram. You're not going to get that from me.
Yeah.
But it's just, I realize I've had my Olympia titles before. I've had the platform before. What did I do with it? What do I have to show for it? And, you know, when I lost everything, the only thing that brought me back was reestablish my relation from God. Like, he's got me back on my feet so I can take the steps that I needed to help myself. Like, that's the only way. It's the only where I got my strength, dude. Like, I tried everything else. I tried other routes. Like, there was a point in time where, like, I was like, God doesn't exist. He's not real anymore to me. I remember I had a phone call with my parents and they're like heartbroken. I can't believe my son doesn't believe in God. It was like right during COVID time. But when I talk about, like, trying other things, like taking mushrooms and doing acid and stuff to try to have that spiritual encounter,
Yeah.
I did it. We did that. And, like, it was just dark, man. It brought me deeper and darker. And, like, all these guys are like, "Oh, dude, you're gonna have a spiritual awakening." No, man. Like, but it's just like, it's just like, I feel like it's the enemies. And the thing is it's getting bigger and more popular. More people are doing it.
Yep. Yep.
And I feel like a lot of people are doing it because they want to have that spiritual encounter, that life changing moment. And they're not going to get it that way. And, like, they don't understand, like, that's like, it's the enemy, like, this tricking you into thinking you see something that isn't God.
Yeah.
And I realized that when I was doing that stuff, like, I got super depressed. Like, it got dark for a while. And it took a while for me. It took me, like, damn near hitting rock bottom till I finally came back to God. And that's when, like, I was desperate for him,
Yeah.
is when, like, he started helping me. And it wasn't just like overnight. Like, it's a process, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm still, like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a perfect Christian, because I'm far from it. Like, I still am very young in my walk with God in my eyes.
Yeah.
I've been knowing God for a long time, but, like, developing a relationship with him is something that's brand new. I've gone to church, man. I've done that since I was a kid.
Right.
But actually, like, having a relationship with God and, being conscious of staying plugged in with him, throughout my days, not just going to church on Sunday, but, like, waking up and, I do cardio here in this back room. And I put my phone on, I watch Stephen Furtick in the mornings, and I watch his, like, little 20-minute segments. And usually do two of those in the morning. And then, during the day, it's really easy to get distracted because I'm always at the gym or bodybuilding and doing all this stuff, is always thinking about myself, like, all the time. So I've been trying to take time to break up my day and, stop and slow down and pause and just get reconnected with God. And at night, praying every night. I never prayed every single night, but I honestly pray every single night before bed.
Yeah.
And it's like, I actually do that now.
Dude.
Before, it's just, it's effort. Like, it's trying. And, like, it's always been really hard for me because to feel something from God because like I gave up so quick if I didn't feel what I wanted to feel.
Yeah.
And it's like even when I don't, like I'll feel his presence. Like when I needed him, I felt like his presence like instantly. Like he was there. I felt God. Like I could feel him. And then when things started getting better, like I feel like he took his hand off me a little bit. Like, all right, you're good right now. And I'm sitting here like I don't feel you the way I was feeling you before. Like, where are you? And it's just, and I'm learning because usually that would when that happens, I would stray away and start doing things that, I start feeling less accountable, I guess, you know, and I would slip just like all my previous Olympias. I'd always start going back to church like 8 weeks out. Like, I gotta win this Olympia. I need you. I win the Olympia. Don't go to church again until 8 weeks out, 8 weeks out again, you know? And
Yeah.
that's something that I've really been trying to focus on is, praying to God, telling him like, God, if you bring this success back to me, like I'm not going to stray away the way I did before. Like I'm not going to act the way I acted. Like I really want to take my success and glorify your name with it. Like we have the platform, you've given it to me. People listen to me. People look up to me, and I just feel better when God's in my life.
Yeah.
It's all around. There's no
Dude,
there. It's just it's just been amazing, man.
dude, you just preached you just preached a message like better than 90% of the preachers happening right now. And man, and what you also just described is what so many people have or are currently walking through. There's some kind of understanding or connection to God or religion or church or whatever, but the significant difference that you just identified about like the difference between just the knowledge of him, going to church versus like investing in that actual daily relationship with a God who is really alive and like wanting to be present with you it's a totally different thing. And when I think about, one of the things you mentioned was guilt and shame, and how much that the enemy does use that to keep people from taking a step out of the dark hole that they're in to receive the hand that's extended down to them, that is the Lord. When for the person that might be listening that's in that space, right, that they're like, I don't even know how to, I can't go clean up what I've done. People know me for this person. They know me for what I've failed in or where I've messed up in. Like the thought of me trying to pursue God or experience him and then be that person to the people that have known me for not being that person, I can't, they just won't believe it. It won't be who I am, won't be believable. And I just, there's so much guilt and shame there. What would you tell that person? Like, what would you encourage them or challenge them with?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there, and I tried. The only real way to overcome that, man, is to, if you're feeling shame or guilt, you did something wrong in some way, and it's a character flaw on your behalf that happened. It's fixing that character flaw and actually living it and being it. And I feel like once you're able to do that, you don't got to really prove it to anybody else. Just let your actions. It's not going to be an instant thing. They're not just going to forgive you. It's going to be gradual by showing your change of character. They'll forgive you over time if you're seeking a forgiveness. They will, but if it's, I don't know, it just depends on the situation. If it's to
Yeah.
the public, in the public eye, if it's something within your family, that's two different things. But if you're talking about something that's public, that's my best advice in regards to that is, be the change that you want, because if you're living in guilt and shame, that's something that you don't want to carry. And the only way to prove that is by action to the public. They don't care about hearing the sorry, oh, I've changed. They don't want to hear that. They want to see it. And it's been a process for me. Like, and it's funny because, over the course of the last year, maybe back on social media consistently and posting and talking about my comeback. Oh man, the first few months it was awful. Like just seeing the comments and how many people were just bringing up all the past again, just trying to, I didn't respond to any. I put that in my past. I've already dealt with that. Like I've gone through it all. I put that to rest. I'm beyond all that now.
Yeah.
So I didn't respond to it. I didn't engage in any of that. And I just kept moving forward and kept showing people that I'm moving forward. And then over time, those comments started going away, more and more of them. To the point now, you can hardly go into my social media and see a bad comment, because if you do leave a bad comment, good luck, because I got an
Yeah.
army of
You
people that
got,
love me
yeah, people
that
coming
love me
coming
that are
down
going to
like,
come and say so. I
get the
don't got to
heck
say
out of
anything
here.
anymore.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, and that's only happened, sorry, there's a bug. That's only happened because of, the patience that I've had with, understanding it's a process,
Yeah.
and being able to be strong enough to handle the hate that I've gone through, and just, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And like I said, I gave a lot of people a lot of reasons. So for the people that didn't like me, that, it's not like I want them gone. I still want them around. Like, not personally, I'm talking about followers, but,
Sure. Sure.
you know,
Yeah. Would you for the person that's like, okay, I just listened to this dude's journey. He's experienced the high highs. He said he's tried everything to find that deeper sense of fulfillment, purpose, satisfaction, whatever in those out of me spiritual experiences, and didn't find it until he really had this collision with God in a personal way. Like, I know one of the biggest questions that I get and I see, and with the people that I still really care about in my life, that I mean, I'm pastoring a church right now, but I'll never lose my eyes and heart for the people that aren't in this room and don't care or get this stuff yet. Like, that's the whole point. I want to reach people that don't know Jesus yet, right? But I hear the question of, like, where do I even start? Like, how do I in 2023, like, I don't know. I mean, most of the experiences maybe you've got with people that are connected to that world are, they are the kind of Sunday only Christian, or they say they're one thing and they're not. And so there's maybe some apprehension to that world. Like, what is there anything you would help people go, like, where, how did you kind of start back? And, like, whether it's, you mentioned Stephen Furtick, or were there some good people around you that brought you back? What did that look like for those that are like, where would I even start with that journey if I wanted to?
I mean, yeah, I mean, where does it start? I mean, it starts with you. It starts with you reaching, wanting to have a relationship with God. It starts with praying. I think that's where it begins. I think that's, my best advice I've given to some of my buddies that have been asking and have come to know God over the last, known Christ over the last, years. That was the biggest thing. It's like, you just got to pray, man, and you got to mean it. You got to really genuinely, you want help, and you got to ask for it.
Yeah.
And, God has been answering prayers, especially for some of my friends he has. And, when he started, I don't know, I don't want to say when he started answering prayers, they started believing, because that's not how it works. But,
Sure,
you
but
know,
part of them even probably like trying. You mentioned trying earlier. Like, you got to try.
yeah,
Like, I bet you that
you got to
even was a
try.
part of that kickstart for them to even
Yeah.
try. To see being significant. Would you
Yeah.
would you say? I mean, gear shifting a little bit. I think about what I've gotten to watch. That when I see it, man, the smile that I get on my face, and the, like, the joy I even feel in my heart when I see it. Watching you operate in the role as a husband and as a dad. Like, I see a strength in those two roles that supersedes anything that you've ever brought to the Olympia platform.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about how that fatherhood and being a husband has impacted your journey and who you are right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's changed my life. I mean, since the moment Stacy and I have gotten back together, like, you know, she just has brought the best out of me. She's helped me, you know, just break down some of the bad habits I had before, helped me recognize a lot. And then, especially when she got pregnant, man, it was just like, she snapped into, like, growing up mode and mom mode real quick.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't far behind. We ended up getting married shortly after. Um, and, it's just been a priority to have a solid family. We both come from, you know, good families, and both of our parents are still together.
Which is so rare, by the way. Like, that's the
Yeah,
fact that you got two families. Like, that's an anomaly nowadays.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And, family's important to both of our families. And it's just, we want to do the job with our daughter. And that's the biggest thing, is, like, I have a kid now, I'm a husband now. I need to be the best version of myself for them. I owe it to them.
Yeah.
And there's no messing around anymore. Like, I got a family. I'm not a kid. It's growing up mode.
Yeah.
It's now. I don't want to be. I always told my buddies when I was like, they always asking me in my 20s, like, why are you working so hard? Why do you work so much? Why are you doing this? I was like, I don't want to be asking myself, what am I going to do when I turn 30? And then we're 30. I come back home, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of guys are still trying to figure it out. And, same thing now. I have a lot of questions I need to answer now, and I don't before 40 gets here because I don't want to be asking myself those questions.
Yeah, that's a great
You know,
perspective.
and yeah, it's just it's the time to grow up and the time to be the man that I want to be. Like when I grow up as a kid, like, you kind of think about what you're going to be as a man. And, I had a vision for what I wanted to be as a man, and I wasn't doing those things in my mid late 20s. And, what really kickstarted was getting married and having a kid. And that's when I was like, the time is now to be who you need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see it too. I mean, you can see it coming out of you. It again, it's not one of those things you're doing to like show some kind of side of you that you want the world to see. It's who you are. You could tell that you love your daughter. You could tell
Yeah.
you love Stacy, and you are wanting to grow more and more as a man, and like you mentioned, the best version of yourself for them in a way that is going to give them, the healthiest version of you. And man, that I hope there's some young men that are out there that are maybe they're not married, maybe they've got a kid or two or whatever, but they're still like you kind of mentioned, even having some friends that as do I, that like are like late bloomers in maturity, maybe in regards to like they're still trying to do some things that they are holding on to
Or
from
they're
those.
trying to stay young and do the things that they're doing when they're 20.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know,
And there's some that are in that place where they have stepped into some kind of fatherhood role or husband or partner role, and I hope that they're seeing what the example that you're stepping into and setting, which is one that is going to be ultimately like when all of the Olympia stuff's done, when this world of you being able to be successful the way you've been able to over the last 15, 16 years isn't a reality as much anymore. You're going to have a daughter and a wife who, whether you get another medal or not, are still going to look to you
yeah.
to be the dad or the husband that you have become. And that kind of satisfaction and purpose. I mean, I haven't won any Olympia gold medals and I never will, but I can attest to being a dad and a husband and go, good Lord, man, like there's something about that that's just deeper that I wish more young men would go, I need to get my butt in gear and like realize like that's more worth it than whatever it is I think I'm trying to pursue to attain, or pleasure I'm trying to experience, or thing I'm trying to escape from. And I think that's part of what plagues a lot of guys, especially in our generation, is that like they aren't willing to deal with what they need to deal with. And to some of their credit, or to some of that point, they don't know really where to go to deal with it. They haven't had a lot of examples tell them, yo, I tried all this stuff. It didn't work. Something else is working though. And I'm telling you, this is for real. So I just hope guys hear this and see this because it's significant, man. Significant.
100%.
Uh, Last kind of thing is we kind of wrap up the convo around, for me, this whole podcast thing, right? Has been wanting to help people get freed up from what's holding them back in life so they can build up who they were made to be. I don't know another person I could say in the same way in the last 2 years that I've watched that embodies that reality of whatever held you back. And that's part of the question I want to ask you is what do you feel like is something that you've been held back by, that you've been freed up from to be who you were made to be now? I watched you really embody that to be where you are right now today, like not a lot of people that I have around in my life. And that's so significant. But for you in this season, what is something you would say, man, just that wisdom drop of like what has held you back, you feel like you've been freed up from to be built into who you were made to be? Give me a piece of that.
Man, I mean, anger, guilt, a lot of shame, embarrassment, a lot of things, man. Just the way my mind was working, the way I thought about things, my even my actions to a certain point. I held on to a lot of these things and felt a lot of guilt and shame that it was paralyzing for me. And it's you got to be able to, in order to change, you got to be able to call yourself out on things. And honestly, like I made a list of things that I didn't like about myself. And once I've figured out those things that I didn't like about myself, it started to help me understand maybe why the people didn't like me. So, I started working on those things and, being conscious of them. And it's just been a process of changing my heart and changing the way I look at things, my perspective. I want to be a good man. I want to be a godly man. So like I make a conscious effort every day to do the right thing. Like, and the temptations that I've had and the bad habits that I have had, I still have some of them. As far as habits I'm trying to break, but the list has gotten smaller, and the temptations to do things have gotten less and less, and it's easier to say no. The intrusive thoughts have gotten less and less. All of those things, they don't your wants my wants are different than before, and it's not something like that. A lot of things like I thought about before was like I did things that I didn't want to give up because I liked them.
Sure.
But over time, like I started not liking those things as much. And it wasn't something that I was like consciously like thinking about, but it becoming a better closer to God, like you just stop wanting to do those things. You just don't want to anymore. It's not like I'm forcing myself to stop. It just gradually just becomes less appealing to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's kind of like what's happened is this, I don't know, I go to bed every night and I pray and I think I try to go, I pray for forgiveness on the things I do. And sometimes I lay in bed, I'm like, oh, what did I do wrong today? I gotta think. I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty good day, man.
Yeah.
And it's nice because back in the day, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on about all the terrible things I did from the time I woke up till the time I went to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's been like I said, the consistency and the effort and the desire to have a relationship with God. Like I want that now, and not just saying it.
Yeah. Dude, that's God, I love that. It's freaking it, bro. That want, the wants and the desires transforming shows the greatest evidence to what's actually happening and could happen in somebody's life, because religion in and of itself is just I have to do what is right in order to appease what God or whatever else, the religious system. But when you really start to actually experience what you're talking about, your wants begin to change. Like your actual desires begin to be transformed into more of what God would want. And I see it happening in your life, bro. And I respect it so much. And I think I'm most excited about, outside of, man, your physique is on point to a level that I don't know what you would say about where it's at compared to where it's been in the previous 4 titles, but it feels like it's pretty darn close, if not better than what you were bringing. I mean, which is mind-boggling to think about you at 33, and good Lord. So, but in that way, man, just knowing that like your platform, what God has given you, and beyond all of that, like whether it all disappeared overnight or not, I can tell what's happening in you is real and is becoming more than enough for you. You don't have to get another Olympia title in order to be somebody, to have significance, purpose, to feel like you've done enough. You could tell what's happened in you is as a transformation of like, no, you already are enough, bro. God does love you beyond all of the stuff. He has forgiven you, and you mentioned people over time forgive you and forget or whatever. But you're not even living for that anymore. I can tell you're living from a place of forgiveness. You're a forgiven man who God has made new and is continuing to make new in His image in that way, and it's evident. And I'm proud of you because of who you are as a man that I've gotten to watch over the course of these last 17 whatever years. You haven't given up. You haven't thrown the towel in on being a man who becoming the man that God really has for you to be. And there's a call obviously on your life, and it supersedes what you're doing on the platform when it comes to the sport. Although, man, you've got a gift obviously that you've taken and you've worked your tail off to continue to refine and improve and make even better. And I mean, nobody will understand the sacrifice that you're putting in to do what you're doing, except for some of the people in that same space with you. And even then, you're on another level than that, right? But I just want to tell you, you got somebody who's been rooting for you from that hit from freshman, sophomore year, and still has been in the space of praying for you and your family, and for what I see God's call is on your life, which is just so much bigger than obviously even the sport that you're at the top of.
Thank you.
But yeah, and man, with this, what, you're 5 weeks, 4 weeks away from
5.5 weeks.
Okay. You got a whole new crew of people that are listening that maybe are meeting you for the first time on this podcast that are going to be in your corner praying for you as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
And yeah, pretty excited to watch and see. And again, no matter the outcome.
I'm posting on my YouTube channel like every other day, so if you guys want to stay in the loop.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal. It's like it's there's obviously saturated content everywhere out there, but like if you're putting out some really good stuff from all, obviously what you're doing in the video to the actual quality of it. So I can't agree more. And I'm gonna put here too all the stuff for people to get connected to you in the details of the podcast from the description and stuff. But thanks for taking the time. Thanks for your raw honesty, vulnerability. I think that in and of itself is going to make a bigger impact than you could ever realize. People seeing somebody's humility and willingness to go like, man, this is my journey, and I'm willing to continue to embrace it and walk it out into being who I was made to be. So really, really appreciate it. And man, good luck. God bless. Godspeed with Olympia coming up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It was great talking to you, Chase.
Yeah. With everybody listening and watching, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, see you later.